because your spouse is not always going to be on the same wavelength as you. There'll be times when you'll be aligned, there'll be times when you're not aligned. So you have to learn to find your own happiness. Hi Team Resolute Christians, welcome and welcome back to this channel. Well, today we are going to look at whether marriage is a trap. Okay, I recently saw an interview where I think, oh God, I'm so bad with names. One of the comedians, I'm gonna put his face somewhere, that said that, well, marriage is boring. You know, you just with that same person for years and years and years and years. It gets boring. People are doomed to just go out because you cannot be with the same person for all this time. You're gonna need to step out at some point. And so what's the point of getting married in the first place? And we find that in real life at the moment, you know, so many marriages are ending in divorce. And, you know, they do beg the question that, is there any point? Is there any point in marriage at this point? Because it's boring. It gets boring with the same person. And I challenge this here where I would say that it depends on the perspective that you have of marriage. What do you understand marriage to be? You're given this fairy tale of marriage as being something, you know, blissful, beautiful, you grow old together, but then they don't show all the aspects of it within it. That's not, the ugly aspects are not really spoken about. And part of it can be feeling bored with your spouse at some point, feeling like, well, there's a word in German that we would say called Kartoffelhead, F and Kartoffelhead. And that means it's like a potato hero. So that's usually used as the description of a man with a big belly. He's let himself go. And I guess the same would be said with women, that especially after they give birth, they let themselves go. And you look at them and you're like, well, is this where I'm married? And especially if you're out and about a lot and you're constantly around maybe attractive people, and you might feel like, well, I'm stuck in this cage. I wish I could go out and just have fun. And that can make one quickly feel like, well, you know what? I need to have some fun out here. I need to explore some other things. I'm stuck in this boring reality of a spouse. But then my question is, how do you see your spouse? How do you really see your spouse? Did you just see them as a fun time? Really caution is that we need to look at our spouses outside of being a lover as being a friend, as being a brother or sister as well. It's like your friendships, you know, you don't have your friendships and say at some point, well, I'm going to no longer have you as a friend because you're boring. Or your siblings, you have them all your life. Why can you be friends with someone all your life, or be with your siblings or your parents all your life, and not say that relationship is boring? You're there because your relationship is not boring, because it's deeper than any surface thing can give you. You are still hanging out with that friends because, and I'm talking about friendships of maybe like 10 years plus, 20 years plus. You're still friends with that person because it's become now deeper than a good time. It's now deeper than any surface thing. This relationship now is like an anchor. This person is like an anchor in my life. This person knows me in and out. This person has proven to be loyal, has proven to be there with me through thick and thin. And so if that person is your spouse, if that's how you see your spouse, you would never feel like, I'm now bored. Because at the end of the day, you're still living your life. Because you're married doesn't mean your life has ended. I mean, you're still doing. If you were to be single, you're likely to still be doing the same things that you're doing now. You will still be going to work, you'll still be coming home, you still have your meal, and you still go to bed. But now you have the leisure of waking up with your spouse, going to work with other people, you're coming back home to your spouse, to a lovely meal, and maybe watch a movie together and sleep. I feel things like going to the pub every Friday, well, I mean, to me, it's overrated. Like clubbing and stuff is overrated because it's not, to me, there's no satisfaction in it. There's nothing in it to me. If that was your life and feel like, well, now I can't go to these places anymore, You can take your spouse and have a fun time together. You can go somewhere together. Leave the children with the grandparents. Leave the children with good friends that you trust, that you know have children too, that they can stay with for a weekend. You can still make your life fun. You know, your spouse is someone that's an anchor in your life, and if you see from that perspective, you will never ever in your life say again, this marriage life is boring. My spouse is boring. Because at the end of the day, whether your spouse is going through a certain, maybe a time in their lives where they just don't feel like doing anything. Like maybe you wanted to go out and they don't feel like doing anything. They're just like, no, I'm not going. No, I'm staying home. No, I'm going to bed. And you feel like, well, it's boring. Remember that outside of your spouse, you also are your own person. What would you do if you were single? You would still be in a house. It's just that your spouse is there, right? You would still be in a house. You would still go to work. Or if you're going for an event, you would still go to an event. If your spouse was not in your life, you would still go to an event, right? Why are you not doing that still? Like, you can go with your good friend, and if they are busy or maybe they're going with their spouses, you have to learn to find your own happiness. And that's something I mentioned in the other video, was you have to have your happiness outside of your spouse. It is very, 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 very important, because your spouse is not always going to be on the same wavelength as you. There'll be times where you'll be aligned, there'll be times when you're not aligned. And that's why they always give this analogy, like marriage couple is like the teeth and the tongue. You have to somehow manage to both move together, but there's times where you can bite on your tongue. That's because it's not aligning. At the same time, the different elements are having different minds. So treat them like your friend. Treat them like your friend, because your spouse is not always going to be exciting. And that's why it is important that when we marry character. You have to marry character, because character is the thing that will carry you through that marriage. Character is that if we're going through difficult times, I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to be blaming you. As a woman, one of the characters I looked out for in my husband was, how is he with circumstances go wrong, like when maybe there's no money and there's nothing available. How does he deal with things? Is he calm? Does he take charge? What is his character? Is he abusive? Is he angry? Is he violent? Character is what will keep a marriage, not the pockets. It's not potential. It's not the sweet words. These things all are things that will fade. Sexual desires can change. Sexual appetite can change. Everything can change, but character is a core. Character is who the person is outside of all these things. And so when you're choosing a spouse, make sure you choose character. Alright guys, so to me, marriage is definitely not a trap and not a mistake, but definitely very exciting and an interesting journey to go through. And it really, really, really gives you so many skills. It tests you and it builds you and makes you a stronger person. And I feel like marriage is something that's worthwhile fighting for, as it's dear to God's heart too. God bless you, and I shall see you in my next video. Bye bye.